that was left over from December. For various reasons, officers couldn't attend. So welcome to this afternoon's meeting. And the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Chair, I have apologies for absence from Councillor Dunbar. If at this point we could run through the attendance list and just if councillors can confirm they are present and then
that's fine. Carry on.
Yeah. So obviously yourself, Councillor Gallagher.
He's there.
Councillor Gallagher, could you unmute yourself and...
It's going to be one of these days, isn't it?
Right. Do you want to proceed, Chair?
Brian, can you unmute yourself and acknowledge your attendance? We'll move on, Nicola.
Right. Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Carty, just to let you know, Chair is trying to join us.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Just carry on.
Okay. Have we got Councillor Dunn?
Don't see her.
Okay. Councillor Gibson?
Present.
Thanks. Councillor Heppel?
Do you need to unmute yourself, Alan?
I always have trouble with this button. Present.
Thank you. Councillor Horncastle?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Stowe?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, that takes care of everybody. The next item on the agenda is a minute of the 7th of October and the 28th of October. Well, you agree that I sign them as a true record? And I take silence as I take people indicating that they're fine with that, so that's good. Disclosure as members' interests. If you've got an interest in the item that isn't already declared, you need to do that now. I don't see anyone else making a move. So the next thing is the forward plan of cabinet decisions. I don't know whether Sean wants to comment on this, or you need to unmute yourself first though, Sean. You need to unmute yourself.
There you go. Wrong button. Yeah, I mean, just to say that obviously we circulated this at the beginning of December, so it is out of date. You will see that the draft private sector housing strategy was due to come to you at the next meeting, but that has actually been withdrawn from the forward plan now, so it won't be pre-scrutiny. The one item to highlight for all members, I think Councillor Sanderson confirmed it at the council meeting last week, is that all members will be invited to the Corporate Services and Economic Growth Scrutiny Committee on the 8th of February to consider the budget. So that's it as far as the forward plan is, Chair.
Excellent, thank you for that, Sean. So the next thing on the agenda is the scrutiny of the monitoring arrangements for Active Northumberland. If my memory serves me right, Nigel is going to talk to this. Are we going to have a presentation first, Nigel, or can you just remind me how this is going to work?
That's correct, Chair. I'm going to talk to the brief paper that was circulated. Then we're going to receive a presentation from Joanne Farrier and Paul Metcalf from Active Northumberland.
Excellent. Well, let's do that then. You're up now.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And Happy New Year to all members. And I must apologise for having to reschedule this meeting. I was actually came quite poorly before Christmas, but thank you for your patience with that one anyway. So I'm Nigel Walsh, I'm the Head of Cultural Services, and I'm responsible for the leisure client function within our service. I'm joined today by Maureen Dixon. Maureen is a contract officer with my team who has particular responsibility for the collation and reporting of performance information. So it's a fairly, I would hope it's a fairly straightforward paper. The purpose today is to provide an overview of the arrangements we have in place for monitoring Active Northumberland. Also to note the performance reporting information provided for 1920 to give you an overview 2019-2020, to give you an overview of the levels of performance and the type of performance monitoring. That was included in Appendix 2. And very importantly, it's also to consider a draft annual service plan to be presented by Active Northumberland for the coming financial year for 21-22. And there'll also be an opportunity then, Chair, if we may, for members to comment on that plan and potentially to receive a further report. Also, Chair, we thought it may be timely if, with Paul and Joanne on the call, if members wanted to take the opportunity to talk around the impact of the current COVID pandemic on leisure provision and what that particularly may be for leisure provision going forward, if that's okay, Chair.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just give a brief introduction before we welcome Joanne and Paul. So Active Northumberland is a registered charity and a company limited by guarantee. It operates mainly from the premises of NCC, which many of you will know, 10 main leisure sites, if you include Rothbury, and 7 other facilities, including Pegasus Riding Centre, the Dave Stevens Centre, the Beach Huts and Northburn Community Centre, Druridge Bay, etc. Active Northumberland also provide community facility management in high schools at Bedlington, Prudhoe and Cramlington currently. Now, for their services, Active Northumberland receive a management fee of 1.9 million for 20 to 21. The details of that are within the partnership agreement that has been included into there as well. The annual management fee does include a reduction for the next financial year, which was included in the medium-term financial plan, which was indicated to Active Northumberland at the outset of the agreement. The core document that I referred to, Chair, is the Leisure Partnership Agreement, which covers 2018 to 22. It's a 4-year agreement. That is a core document. It's a lengthy document, largely contractual, and however, it also contains a number of schedules and appendices which specify exactly what we expect to be provided, how, where, when, and to what standard, etc. It also covers some of the more housekeeping issues, such as data transfer protection and NDR, and also includes heads of terms for the lease portfolio. Now, in terms of this meeting and the monitoring arrangements, the monitoring arrangements are administered through I could say cultural services. We have a client function, which is a day-to-day contact with Active, and Maureen within my team is responsible for the collection of the quarterly performance information and the information that is submitted on an annual basis, and that is then submitted into the corporate performance team. We also work with property on capital projects and planning considerations involving leisure. As you'll probably be aware, members, there's currently a great deal of work taking place within the organisation on improvements to the corporate performance monitoring system, which I believe is going to be coming forward soon. Okay, in terms of the actual outcomes and reporting, I'm not going to talk about the actual performance, but for that management fee, we require Active Northumberland to demonstrate that that investment is obviously providing high levels of usage, but also making a positive difference to people's lives. So it's not just the quantitative information. So in the service planning, we expect Active Northumberland to be guided by national policy, also key NCC documents, and we've listed a number of those in the covering report, such as obviously the corporate plan, the indoor facility strategy, the health and wellbeing strategy, and the physical activity strategy. Those are the core documents that we expect them to be familiar with and assist to co-deliver. A key document which you're going to learn more about today is the annual service plan. We're going to introduce shortly Joe and Paul, who described the draft plan for the next financial year, 2021 to 22. And we very much appreciate your thoughts and suggestions for anything else you feel you would like to be included in there or would like any clarification on. We also expect the annual service plan in its final form to address the priorities of the joint health and wellbeing plan. There's also a number of specifics in that document that we do ask for in terms of measures that they will be putting in place to improve efficiency, measures to reduce reliance on public subsidy, how they measure employee satisfaction, user satisfaction, what they're doing to reduce environmental impact, what measures they're putting in place to grow revenue, and performance against performance against projected profiles. So we do receive a significant amount of information from them. At a quarterly level, we receive monitoring information against a suite of core KPIs, and also there's a narrative which is submitted every 3 months with those KPIs, which account for any areas of under or over performance. And there's actually an example of the Q2 performance for 2020 to 2021 in the appendices. It's by no means a typical performance quarter, that, because as you know, the impact of the COVID pandemic has been catastrophic for the leisure industry, and Joe and Paul may talk about it further. But in Q2, we only began to see the facilities open up again. I think it was from the 25th of July. So that is by no means a typical performance report. Okay. Lastly, we also ask for an outcome report, an annual outcome report, by the 30th of June each year. And that is essentially a review by Active Northumberland on how they delivered their annual service plan for the previous financial year. And Chair, we did mention that it could be timely or could be appropriate if this committee was to receive that annual outcome report, if members felt that was suitable in approximately June, July time. Okay, so I think at that point, I would like to introduce Joe and Paul. Paul's the operations manager with Active Northumberland. Unfortunately, Mark Warnes, the chief executive, couldn't make today due to illness. And we're also joined by Joanne Farrier, who is, I believe, is head of marketing and business development. So if that's okay, Chair, can I hand over to Paul and Joe, who will give you a presentation on an overview of performance from 2019-20 and also their forward plan for 21-22. Is that okay, Paul?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Can I just welcome Eileen and Liz to the meeting? Glad you got here in the end. So now it's over to Joanne and Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. Joe, can you just bring up the presentation, please? Further apologies for Mark not being available today. I've literally got a last-minute substitution to come in. It's a good job we've got a stronger bench than Newcastle, isn't it? So I just want to talk through really our annual service report, where we were 2019-2020. Start off by giving the committee an overview of what the company entails, what the company's about, what our vision is, what our values are, to start with, and then come on to our service plan for next year. We haven't included a lot of information as to how COVID has affected us today, but more than willing to take any questions at the end on how we've managed through the pandemic, given what Nigel's just said, that leisure trusts and leisure facilities across the country have been drastically hit by the government measures. So a little bit about Active Northumberland. It's as Nigel says, it's a registered charity which was created in 2014. It's actually a not-for-profit distributing organisation, and it was created in November 2014 by the merger of 6 different companies at the time, some private companies, some local authorities, to come into the creation of Active Northumberland. And the mindset around that at the time was that we would have one company managing all of the responsibilities for the run of the leisure services and the leisure centres right across the county. Again, as Nigel says, we operate 9 leisure centres in some of the key towns across the county, from the north, Berwick in the north, all the way down to a number of facilities in the southeast, and then across to Hexham and Prud at the west. We also manage a few smaller facilities, including a few academies, sports facilities, and we also manage the Hurst Welfare Centre in Ashton. We also have a unique facility in terms of the Pegasus Riding Centre for the Disabled, which offers both services for able-bodied and disabled customers, and it's a valuable facility that for inclusion. Our board is made up of 10 non-executive directors. All those directors who currently sit on the board have a lot of experience within their own fields and bring a lot of knowledge and support and governance to the company. At the present, we have circa approximately 730 employees, and that is a mixture of both full-time, part-time and casual staff. Our vision, which we set our vision about 2 years ago now, when we did a lot of work as to a transformation strategy. Our vision is bold. It's to be the best community and wellness provider in the UK. We'll measure that when we think that we're there, because it is very bold. But if you don't set your targets high, then you don't achieve. To achieve that and to be able to prove that we are that, we are changing our focus upon what we deliver service-wise. We want to move away from providing just traditional sports within our facilities to actually focus on a holistic approach to health and well-being and the term wellness. We need to optimise participation across all our services, and that's again not just within the facilities but externally. We need to deliver a service that impacts across health, social care and education. We need to provide outstanding levels of quality and need to be able to prove that we do that. We need to have or need to improve efficiency and effectiveness across the whole company, have high-skilled, high-willed workforce, and ultimately have a high satisfied user rate. And as Nigel said previously, we do surveys for our staff and we do surveys for our customers where we get feedback as to, just go back one please, Joe, as to how we measure that. Our proposition is quite simply that we want to provide great experiences in great places for everybody. That leads into our values. Now, our values drive our culture, and our culture is fundamental to achieving our vision. Quite simply, our values are fit for the company. So they're fun, they're inclusive, and they trust. Our commitment to fun means we encourage it in everything that we do, be it from our staff to our customers, everything. We need to attract and we need to retain great people, both in terms of staff and in terms of customers. Inclusion. Our inclusion means we understand and respect differences. We collaborate as a team and we break down barriers to enable people who are socially excluded, disadvantaged, isolated and vulnerable to participate and achieve their goals. And I think in terms of COVID, that becomes even more appropriate now because of the number of incidents and discussions we've had around social isolation. The fact that we're an inclusive company enables us to try and work towards different parameters of getting more people involved who actually do feel socially isolated, even when our facilities are closed. Trust. Our commitment to trust means that we are honest and respect the views of others. We believe that we can accomplish more together as a team, and we always do our best to provide an exceptional service. So there are our values. Our workforce is absolutely key to everything that we do. We have over the last two or 3 years recognised that our employees often have their own health struggles, and we continue to give them the support that they deserve. And we have partnerships with NCC's HR department, which we have an SLA for, but we've also got further support channels available through occupational health, and we also have a support channel through what is known as Westfield Health. This is a platform where staff are able to access their own support, ranging from GP services to open forums on mental health struggles. So there's a range of services that we pay for the staff to access at any point in time, and that's 24/7 support on hand. A very quick resume of 2019-20 financial year. Our budget is around £15 million. The 2020 year end position showed that we had a reserve position of 1.435 million. And against our budget, we made a surplus of £40,000. And bearing in mind that was with the end of March, well, probably from January, February, we started to see some decline in usage as coronavirus rules started to hit, and people started to drop off before the actual proper full national lockdown. Our income is made up of the 5 key areas there, the 5 key strands. Fitness, which is gym and group exercise, which is 5.392 million. Aquatics, which is our general access to swimming pools, and our Learn to Swim scheme, which is 2.589 million. Management fee and further external funding 3.2. Catering, vending and retail is 1.432 million. And our leisure attractions, which are our things like 10-pin bowling, clip and climb, soft play areas, brings in just under £1 million at 739,000. During the 1920 financial year, our highlights were that we managed to attract casual swimming income up by 3% to just under £1 million. Our direct debit gym membership income was up by 6% to 4.6 million. And our cafe vending and retail income was up by 1.5 to 1.368 million. Moving forward, the one thing that we do want to do is develop with NCC, as Nigel alluded to earlier, that we want to introduce performance monitoring and evaluation to develop further. So it's what NCC wants to see, what yourself as councillors would like to see, and what the officers would like to see. So we are working very closely with Nigel and his team at the minute to look at a key performance indicator framework added to the company's balance scorecard that we already have. We would like to be in a position where we get external quality accreditation through the Quest system at all of our facilities, and our plans for the next coming year are that COVID providing that we get three of our main facilities through that in the first instance, and we will look to get an excellent score on that when we actually undertake that. Thanks, Joe. Participation highlights, again, these are all pre-COVID. We had 500,000 swims across our 10 pools that we operate. Our Learn to Swim programme has class occupancy rates up to 85%. Our target, it was when we set this up, was actually 85%, and prior to COVID we were hitting that. Our school swimming visits increased by 15,799 up to just under the 50,000 mark. Our gym visits have increased to just under the 500,000 mark. Importantly, we have 40,000 exercise referral visits by people with long-term health conditions. Schools accessing the PE and school sports scheme was up by 10 to 45, so we have 45 schools who access our PE and sports scheme. In terms of social media, our Facebook social media reach was up to nearly 40,000 people. Again, it will be extremely difficult to get our numbers up to these levels during 2021, especially that we're sitting here today again in another national lockdown. What we are doing, and Joe might come onto this a little bit later in the presentation, we are planning on opening all of our facilities as early as possible to get as many people through the doors, combined with a digital platform that Joanne will embellish upon, in order that we can bring more people into the facilities once we're allowed to, but also try and deliver more into the community to actually support those who can't get into the facilities. I'll just hand over to Joe.
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, as Paul said, we have had to kind of reschedule and readapt what our future looks like for Active Northumberland, and for us to change and adapt with what's gone on with COVID and the learning that we have had through that. It also has made us kind of bring things a lot more forward than what we probably wanted in the past, and it's made the public change their opinion of a few things as well, which has been beneficial to us as well. So some of the things that we're looking at is how we can bring the community more together and not be, as Paul said, not just be a gym, swim and a class. It is about us doing more in the community, getting out there, working more with NCC, working more with yourselves as councillors, and how we can make it all a co-located service for us to deliver it. You know, we've got the buildings, we've got the area of expertise. It's just training people and learning people in a different way for them to understand what Active Northumberland is about. So I'll not go through all of the individual things, but the key things that we are going through is obviously the SEND programme that we are currently delivering in 2021. The schools programme, as Paul mentioned before, the Learn to Swim Aquatics, it is one of our second biggest income generator. It's absolutely doing amazing until COVID hit, and what we were surprised when we did come back from COVID is how much that people still wanted to come for that. They still had the appetite, and the children still wanted to learn, and the parents were very, very much wanting them to get back into that regular routine as well. So the capacity for that when we came back out of COVID was amazing. It hit all of our expectations. So that was good. So we just, as we move forward with that, our plan is to just grow massively. As we've got our new facilities coming on board, it gives us the scope to do so. We've got more capacity within our pools in our new facilities. So it just gives us that bigger capacity. The school swimming scheme, as we have hit COVID, that has hit us massively. The schools haven't been able to come in at all. So our future aim, which we have started talking to them now as to what that looks like for the future, is to get them back. Now, obviously the children are going to be a little bit behind, and there has been a lot of children that have missed out on that. So what we are trying to do is talk to them through how we can do some crash courses for them to make sure that they still get that ability that they've missed out on as well. The health walk programs, again, we've had to stop a lot of that during COVID. So we just want to make sure we get up to date with that. We talk to the community health walks and we can do it together. It's been a program that works successfully well. However, we don't feel that we're all working together as much as we can with that. So it's about us moving forward with that within the communities. The service improvements, as we said before, a lot of things have had to change through COVID, and a lot of that for us has been our digital channels and how we utilise all of the technology that we do have and how we can make it more effective for our customers and ourselves. The way that the customers are working is that they book everything in, they pre-book everything, they've got to do everything on the app. So we're always aware of who is coming in before they do attend. So we can make sure that we are tracking and tracing and everybody that is coming in. Now, obviously moving forward out of COVID, that is still a good thing for us to have. We used to have some issues around services where people weren't checking in. We didn't know that they were attending, and it caused us a few operational issues, whereas this way it keeps us forward planning. We always know how many we've got in at one time, and it helps us for staffing wise, so we always know what is going on. So it will reduce our queues at reception. It gives them the digital offer. They can do self-serve and they can help themselves at any time. We're also doing a digital service which expands on the stay-at-home service. Again, those people that are a little bit nervous around coming back into the facilities, or they've never been in the facility before. A lot of people have this perspective around a gym is that it's a bit of a challenging place to come into. They feel very nervous about coming in. So this is just to take them barriers down from those people, and how we can change their idea of it. We have kiosks and tablets at the front of house. So what we're trying to do is take it away from, it's less transactional, it's more personal approach that we are going for with people. Instead of it just being, we want to take your money and then, you know, get on and train by yourself. It is about us talking to them, asking them what they want to achieve, sitting them down and going through from start to finish what they do want to do and making sure we're helping them to deliver that. As soon as people don't get results, that is when people start to leave us. The other key aim is around our policies. It underpins everything that we do around our staff and how we can help and support them. So that's a key thing for us to do in our improvements. Full visibility of our KPIs, as Paul and Nigel have talked around before. Also sharing all of that information with our staff as well, so they can understand what we are doing with that information and how busy it has been and what impacts that may have for them also. A suite of process documents, as we've said before, with Nigel, is how we can create a different aspect and make sure everyone has a way of improving everything that we do, and measuring our performance, as Paul mentioned, around the Quest accredited. Group exercise is one of our biggest income generator also as to why people do use our facilities. It's a great way of people socialising and interacting, and obviously with COVID it has made us, has had a massive impact where people haven't been able to do that, which is why the digital service and the virtual plans that we've got coming up and we have been delivering now on social media, it's managed for them to stay within that social climate also and still see the people that they're used to seeing, but seeing a familiar face of the actual person delivering it. So those that are regular and go to our classes like to see them familiar faces. So that's another thing that we have been working on. A lot of our group fitness is delivered through the people that you can see below there, which is we use Tet and Gym, Watt Bike, Escape, Jordan, My Zone. You know, we have a blueprint of our innovative new gym, which is massive. All of our new facilities have got all of this new facilities in there, and they use it extremely well. I don't know if any of you have managed to go into any of our sites before we did close for COVID, My Zone is a massive hit, and these are all national names within the industry, and they just work extremely well. The feedback that we've had and how they all interact together and link together. They have a platform that we call where we can track everything that people are doing. It's called My Wellness. So every time someone comes into our building, every time someone does any physical activity inside our facility or outside of our facility, it tracks everything and maps everything for people. So we can always be on track with what they are doing and help them to achieve their goals. Again, talking about the communities and how we can help in the wider deprivations of health. So exercise on referral scheme, it's been working extremely well, and we've been doing a big scheme at the moment with the doctors and the health service of how we can improve that. And it is all about accessibility and how people can change the way that they do access that. And again, the digital side of things is very much heavily involved in that as well. Same with the weight management program. We've managed to keep both of these two running, the exercise and referral and the weight management program, so that we can still help and assist. And we've done that through technology and Zoom and things like that. We've also sent programs out to those that can't access Zoom, and we've made phone calls to people as well. So we have tried to adapt and do things differently to those that have the ability. Childhood obesity, we haven't started on this just yet. It's a new initiative that we are doing, but we are excited to get involved with it with our specialist PE teachers and how we can change that with the schools that we do with the sports partnership. Our Mums on the Move is a pre and postnatal women that we use. It's in partnership with Sport England. It's been very, very successful. It is a funded post that we do through Sport England. I don't know, again, if you follow any of our channels and what we've been doing, we have managed to keep this running through COVID as well, through closed groups on social media. And it's just absolutely growing all the time. They go down, if any of you are in Blythe, they go down in Blythe and they do the buggy walks. It's very, very successful, and people are joining all of the time. Future catering opportunities. This is one of the big things that COVID's had a massive hit for us. We've had to close everything completely. It is a secondary spend option for us. So if we aren't getting people into our centres, and the concept around COVID is get them in, get them out quickly. So we haven't had any opportunities for us to do anything around our catering opportunities. The future for the catering, this is what it looks like. The new brand is called Hive Cafe, and that also goes into our other attractions around the facilities, which is the bowling, clip and climb, everything like that, and how it all encompasses together. The look and feel of it is how we promote good nutrition, the importance of hydration. And when you come into some of the facilities, you'll start to see it's not just about the look and feel, it is about your surroundings as well. Within, I think it was Wentworth, we created an area within that space where people felt different in there. So if they're sitting there, you felt like you were still outside. So we created this massive area where there was lots of lovely plants in there, and it's how people interact differently with different surroundings. So we've looked into various different avenues with that and making people feel secure and safe. I'm not going to read this word for word, it's quite lengthy, I'm a bit conscious on time, but this is just about the facilities that we've got going on. I will share this so you can have a look at your own leisure, about the investment that NCC are delivering into Active Northumberland. The key investments that we've got coming on board is we've got the renovations at Blythe, we've got a new Swan Centre at Berwick, and we've got obviously Morpeth coming on board, and we've just opened Ponteland's new facility, which is a shame it's closed at the moment, but hopefully not for too much longer. It does go into detail in there, the reasons around it and how we've managed to improve it, but everything is looking fantastic. So if you haven't had the opportunity, then by all means, I would love to see you in our facilities when we do get the chance. And I'm sure Paul and I are more than happy to show you around and talk you through anything that you would like to see. And that's just the overview of what we have been doing. So Berwick is £21 million new build, Blythe was a £5 million refurbishment, Morpeth a £22 million new build, and then New Biggin we've got a refurbishment. And again, we're doing a lot with the community within New Biggin. This is all in the paper that has been shared with you again around our service annual report that Nigel's got. But if you do have any more questions, that's it for the presentation.
Excellent, thank you for that. We'll just go straight on to questions unless Nigel wants to top that off.
I'm fine, Jeff. I think between that and the paper previously circulated and the appendices, there's a fair amount of information. I'm confident we've got enough across.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Bear with me. When I see a hand go up, I can see Councillor Heppel. Just raise your hand and then I'll get to you eventually. I'll not miss anybody. Alan.
Right, thank you, Chair. And thank you for the presentation, Nigel, Joanne and Paul. Very interesting, very detailed and very informative. I have to say as well, before I ask the question, that I regard Advance as quite a vital service in terms of delivering sort of health benefits, I guess, to the population of Northumberland. Personally, I've benefited from the health exercise programme at Concordia in the past, so that was really good. The biggest issue, of course, that comes from me from these papers is the financial challenges, and the biggest risk there, obviously, is COVID. But the question I'm going to ask, given the kind of background in the report of a £4.5 million deficit, NCC being in a precarious financial position with savings cuts in the future, how confident are you in meeting those financial challenges in the future? Is the question I have.
I think it's a bit of a crystal ball moment at the minute, Councillor Heppel. We don't know how long this current lockdown's going to last for. We don't know how long it is before the injections are fully rolled out and social distancing measures are introduced. I think what I can say though is that we are working with the council to look at there's no stone unturned in looking at every grant opportunity that's available to leisure trusts like our own, to reduce the funding that's required from NCC to sustain the company moving forward. At the minute, we're working with the council to try and get a part of the £100 million pot that the Department of Culture and Media and Sport have set out, and we've all worked collaboratively to put papers together for that funding application. If successful, that could potentially bring in hopefully up to £750,000. But obviously there's no which will reduce the subsidy required, but there's no guarantees that we'll get it, because every other single leisure trust and operator in the country are grabbing the same small amount of money. I think what I will say is, certainly as the operations manager, we are working in very, very constrained times when we can open. But our plan has always been to maximise the amount of people that we can get into the facility safely, and maximise the income as much as we can. But the capacity of some of our facilities have been reduced by 75%. So even where we're at full capacity, we can only actually operate 25% of our activity levels or our building capacity as to what we had previously. But we are fully implementing the furlough scheme. When we came back in December, we didn't open up all of our facilities for all of our time. We did a lot of projections on what to be honest with you, it was the worst time that we could have opened leisure centres in December, because it's our lowest usage month. So we fully utilised the furlough scheme, and only brought minimum amount of staff back, and had facility times that we were open reduced to try and manage our expenditure, but maximise our income opportunities. And it probably doesn't answer your question, but I am confident that as a company we will do everything that we can to absolutely minimise the impact upon council's budget.
Yeah, can I just come in, Councillor Heppel, as well? Sorry, Chair, as well.
Of course you can.
Thank you for that.
Before you do, Nigel, it's Councillor Gibson and Councillor Watson after this. Yeah, carry on.
I was just going to say, but really just building on that dialogue with Councillor Heppel, Paul talked about in terms of the economic impact on the day-to-day running of it. But I think we also, as local authorities, as policymakers, decision makers, we need to get very close to understanding what the impacts on society are going to be of COVID going forward. I mean, we talked briefly, Chair, earlier, people's sentiment towards group gatherings, the emergence, and people's feelings towards online exercise that's been available for free. So we're going to have to be very, very close to customer and resident perception, because sentiment, to make sure that we offer the right opportunities in the right way. And it may well be an increased mix of digital going forward and physical as well. So, and also in terms of future proofing the facilities we're putting in, I mean, Paul will concur with this. We're trying to do almost COVID audits of the new builds to ensure they're as future proofed as possible. Councillor Apple going forward as well, as much as we can be.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Gibson.
Well, all I really wanted to say is that I'm seriously impressed with what's going on in active Northumberland, considering where it was sort of 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, it wasn't known how many people were going through the turnstiles and were actually paid, to be honest, from what I can remember, at some fairly extraordinary meetings. And I mean, you really, really seem to have got a hold of it. And as I say, I'm seriously impressed. I suppose my question is, which to a degree, you probably won't be able to answer, because the funding situation is completely out of everybody's control, but I'm sure you'll get compensated. All I would really have liked to have known is how, you know, how much it's costing us, you know, as a ratepayer. I mean, if it was to be going sort of as it should be, is there a deficit, or is there a, you know, making a slight gain, or just go even Stevens? Or, as I also remember from many years ago when I did stuff at bits of odds and ends for Newcastle on Tyne, they used to say that the only area that ever made any money there was the crematorium. So they had huge losses on their swimming pools and gyms and all the rest of it. So I mean, if this is pretty close to level, you're doing really well.
Yeah, it's always been the ambition, Councillor Gibson and Chair, to, in all conversations we've had, it's always about quality, but it's also with this organisation and the other organisations that we do support through grant support. It's always been, we're always looking to not just measure what are they doing to increase usage, but what are they doing to drive down reliance on public subsidy as well. So that is a key, that is actually a measure that we put in their reporting as well. So it is something we're absolutely striving to do. And I think that's a message that's very much taken on by Active Northumberland and the board as well.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
No, councillors may wonder why I'm here. I'm actually, my portfolio includes leisure, just in case you wondered. And some of the questions that have come up I was going to pitch into would actually have been answered very well indeed. But with particular reference, I think, Alan, to what you asked in the first place, this council is fully aware of the contribution that is made to the public health. And I can assure you that, well, the gap for this year has already been agreed to be funded by the county council. The gap, who knows what's going to happen next year? But we just simply, and I'm saying this probably more as an ordinary person than a cabinet member, but we can't walk away from our responsibilities for the health of the public. And we will make sure, I will make sure, as long as I'm there, that we don't do anything like that at all. And just to reiterate what Nigel was said, and again put it in simple terms, I think the design, the idea of active, sorry, is that it will wash its face. It will, in fact, probably make a profit. The new outlets that we are making are designed to actually run themselves, and the revenue from them to create a surplus. We're not looking to burden the ratepayers of Northumberland with something that they can't afford to have. And I think, unfortunately, we've had so little experience before COVID hit us of what the revenue was going to be from the new elements that we've opened. But I'm convinced if you've had an opportunity to go to somewhere like Ponteland, it's absolutely first class. And if that doesn't make a profit for the county, which is not its main aim, of course, but if that doesn't make a profit for the county, I'll eat my hat at the end of the day. And please, you better not put that in the minutes.
It's on the internet, Councillor Watson.
Yes.
So
fortunately, I don't wear hats. Anyway, I hope that's clear, Alan. There are things that we need to look at, and that's been talked about by Paul, and he hasn't touched on it, but they've looked through their management structure, and they have cut out one or two people that they've thought it weren't necessary, which is always a difficult thing to do, but in this difficult times, I think it was a worthwhile function. And the other thing, unless I've missed it, because there's a lot of information there, is the cooperation that we're receiving at the moment from Active with the council about COVID injections, about using the buildings there as centres in the future. And I think that is a really good indication of the excellent relationships we have between us and Active Northumberland. So I hope you didn't mind me putting that in, chaps, because I'm intending to sit back and take a back seat on this meeting, because there's no need for me to interrupt when we get such excellent presentations. But I really felt Alan needed that response. So thank you, Chair.
It's always a pleasure to hear you speak, Jeff.
I wish I believed you, Jeff.
Chair, Councillor Dunn's indicating.
Councillor Dunn, fire away. You need to turn your mic on, though.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to congratulate the whole of the Active Northumberland workforce on how they've adapted to keep going through this pandemic. One of my questions, and I was beaten to it, was put by Councillor Heppel about the 4.5 million deficit in the budget projection. I'm just wondering, and I don't want to be the bearer of all things bad, but has that been updated, bearing in mind that this report is now, we're a few months on from when this was done? Secondly, I noticed that one of the ambitions is to deliver more in the communities rather than just in the big centres. And I was wondering if I could just have a bit of an explanation as to what would be involved in that. And thirdly, can you just confirm for me which centres do the SEND programme?
So who's going to take that?
I can take two. I think Jeff's waving.
I've got Councillor Watson afterwards, but you first.
So the SEND programme, it is just new, so we're working with NCC of how we can help and support that. And the main concept that people were struggling with was an actual building and a facility to deliver it. So that's where we're working with them of how to deliver it. The delivery won't be through ourselves, but they will be using our building, and we'll be helping with the physical activity side of things for them. So the programme isn't up and running yet, but it's to come in for April this year.
And what were the other two things, Liz?
I wanted to know if there was sort of an updated projection on the 4.5 million.
I think I can pick that one up, having very quickly spoken to our finance colleagues. As at the beginning of December, it was 4.3.
Okay, I can see Jeff tearing his hair out, so I've obviously missed them. Do you want to come back in, Jeff?
Yes, please.
Jeff, you've switched yourself off instead of on.
Is that better? Thank you. Liz, I thought I'd answered that question earlier. The deficit that we've inherited this year has been accepted by the council as something that we have to deal with and we have to accept. So yes is the answer. We don't know how much it will be in the future, and we don't know what we can do next year, but yeah, the 4.2 million that's referred to by Paul, yes, we have taken it into account and it will be funded.
Yes, I do understand that. I was just asking for an updated figure on it. Wasn't querying what you said on it.
Yeah, I don't
So,
think
if
we've
it
got,
comes out that figure is less.
well, the figure, of course, moves all the time the longer we've got COVID, and the best figure that I've got is the one that Paul quoted.
Yes, so which
Okay.
is just amended to the 4.3, so that's fine.
Correct.
And my other question was how it would, how you are planning to take things out into the community more?
Yeah, so I'll come in there. It's the areas where we do have, yes, we do have our big sites, but it's identifying we have a lot of rural areas, and it's how we can make sure that we are still helping those people, those that can't get into our big facilities. So it is about us kind of active on the road, if you like, for a better word, and we can maybe do that in different facilities. So it could just be a church hall or things like that, but it's to make sure that we are still helping those people that can't get to the main areas as well. And like I said, we're working with NCT as well of getting into the communities. We're doing things within the hospitals, we're helping things with the NHS and understanding how it's not just for the communities, but a large part of our communities is our workforce, and how we can really help with the workforce a lot more and do some closed sessions for them as well.
Thank you, that's fabulous.
Is that all right, Liz?
Yes, thank
I
you.
don't know whether Brian, did I see you indicate, or was that just my imagination? Okay, obviously I think from the comments you've heard, everybody's quite pleased and satisfied by the way you pulled all this together. Councillor Heppel, you want to come back in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. By the way, I wasn't being critical of Active Northumberland there, because, you know, like I said, I benefit from the programmes that they've run. And I think the one that Jeff mentioned, the main concern I have is the loss of health benefits to the communities in Northumberland. So I'm pleased to hear what Jeff's had to say there. The other thing, I mean, I think Paul mentioned 100 million, I think it was, I don't know if I've got that figure right, in terms of funding from the government for leisure facilities in the country. It's not a lot of money, I would suggest. I just wondered whether the council were actually, you know, campaigning, pushing the government to provide more. I know it's a difficult situation with COVID, but it just strikes me that, you know, the health benefits come from these kind of services are so critical to the community.
I can just pick that up, Chair. Obviously I can't speak for the council, but on behalf of Active Northumberland as a leisure trust, we're part of a company called Community Leisure UK, which is, if you like, it's a collective union for all of the leisure trust operators, and they are always in government's ear, and they are always trying to get more funding, because, as you quite right to say, £100 million across the whole country will go nowhere. So they're into Sport England for more funding, they're into the government, but again, it's how successful that campaigning is.
I can confirm as well, Alan, that since early in the pandemic, we were asked to prepare figures to inform a letter that did go into cabinet office on that as well. So there has been lobbying going on as well.
Okay, so I think just to kind of draw this to a close, I think from what's been said and the expressions on the faces I can see, we're all happy to accept the report as a well-written, well thought out document that, you know, gives a true reflection of what the company was doing up till COVID struck. I haven't really picked up much from people about what my worry is the future. And there doesn't appear to be in the document all that. You know, I'm not blaming anybody for it. I just don't think any of us know what's going to happen. The government doesn't seem to know what's going to happen. So we've just got to I think that Active Northumberland need to just keep an open mind about all of this and be as fleet as foot as they have been so far, and make decisions when they have to be made. You know, the plan is fine as a non-COVID plan. You know, if things are going to carry on, I could live with that, but we honestly don't know what's going to happen. You might be shut till December. you know, we just don't know. So I just think the plan itself needs to have something in there that says, you know, subject to change without notification or something. But other than that, you know, everybody seems to have accepted what you've written, so that's fine. But a couple of questions I've got, the 4.3 or the 4.5 million loss, what is that? Is that, who would you have given that to? You know, and if it's like rent from the council or whatever, that, or utility bills, that's fine. But I just wanted to know what that 4.3 or 4.5 or whatever it is, what's that's actually made of, and how much of that can be discounted as not real money. You know, so if you're paying £1 million worth of rent to the council, not giving the council £1 million is kind of, it's not real money, if you see what I mean, because the council aren't going to use it for anything, they're going to stick it away somewhere. And the other thing about the sports centres that Councillor Watson brought up, these ones that are being built and the ones that you operate in, what you're talking about is an operating surplus, not an actual cost of the building. So we might be spending £22 million, the council might be spending £22 million in Berwick, but we are not collecting from people who go in there enough to pay off the money that we borrowed to build the place. Does that make sense? So there's a difference between an operating profit and a profit. The buildings themselves are just an asset that we build, we pay off over 50 years or whatever, and you get to use at a, you know, a nominal cost, I think is what I'm trying to say. So that's why I was wondering where the 4.5 million came from. And I noticed that there's £1.36 million made from catering and vending machines. And there is all this thing about sugary drinks, and you can't put Pepsi in there, and you know they've got to be, you know, they've got to be sweetened rather than with sugar in. And I'm just wondering, as far as trying to keep people healthy, what effort you're making to make certain that this £1.3 million is through catering is ethical, for want of a better word. We're not just selling chips to kids or selling Coke to, you know, or Iron Brew to people as they leave the building. So I think those are, you know, I mean, as you can see, I'm scrapping around for criticism really. But if anyone could answer any of those questions, I would be obliged.
If I could just come in first, Chair, and then Joanne can probably come in on the second one about sugary drinks, because she's got the same concerns as yourself, and has totally radicalised our catering offer to make sure that we are fully compliant. Basically, the loss, the additional loss is through loss of income. That's how much we've lost by having our doors closed, our doors closed for what is essentially 5.5 months now, without people being able to come in. And some of our operating costs have increased slightly as well through having to make the facilities COVID compliant. We have to run our plant for additional length of time, bringing it on early in the morning, run it through the night potentially, to make it all compliant with the legislation for public buildings, in particular for leisure centres. So, but a lot of it is down to just we haven't got the income coming through the doors.
Yeah, sorry, but if the furloughed staff, the reason we have staff in the building is to cater for the customers that are coming in, yeah?
Yeah.
So there's £4.5 million not being, Joe Public is not giving you £4.5 million because they haven't been come through the door, but you furloughed most of your staff. So, you know, where is the counter balance to the 4.5 million? You see what I mean? I'm not, if you're saying that what you've lost is just people coming through the door, then there are counterbalances to that, or is that taken into account?
No, that's taken into account. We track how many staff we've had on furlough at any particular point in time. At this particular point, we've got 95% of our staff who are furloughed. and there are only about 45 of us who are continuing to work to look after the mass testing centres at the minute that we're working with the council for to keep the company ticking over. But we still don't recover. Whilst we recover the 80% of that, we still don't recover the national insurance element of it or the pension element of it. So there are still staff costs which are hidden that the furlough scheme doesn't cover.
Right, and so the sugary drinks in the operating surplus.
So the sugary drinks and the vending, we've worked with public health, and we currently are on the same planogram as what they're on, which what that means is that we've reduced all of the sugar, and we don't do certain things within our vending machines. So the way that it is out, it's got all healthy snacks in there as well. I think it's something like 45-55% that we've reduced all of the sugar on there. The same within all of our catering offers, we've done all of that. And as you said, we don't just serve chips and chicken nuggets and things like that. Yes, there is an element of that, but we've also put more healthier options in there, and we tried to plan that around the activities that people are doing, so to fuel the body in the correct way for the activities that they are doing pre and post activity. And it's about us educating them to do that. So we have done a big campaign around that.
So is anybody monitoring the usage of the vending machines? So say you've got 60% what we would call healthier options and 40% of what people used to consume. Is anybody monitoring that to see if it's actually being taken up, or they're just selling more quavers?
Obviously, we haven't been open for some time, so I can't comment on what it's been like recently, but we do get on a monthly basis, we know what each of our vending machines and all of our facilities have had. And if we feel it's the way that it's displayed for your eye line as well and how people interact with it. So yes, we get a full-blown documentation as to what's being sold and what is working the best way, but we don't put anything where it is full sugar on anything.
Good.
Sorry, Chair, if I could just come back in on the question about the subsidy as well. I think one thing to bear in mind is the times where we are open and we have full staffing levels back, we only have reduced capacity. So our staffing costs and operational costs remain the same, but our opportunity to increase income is somewhat diminished.
Yeah. And I saw Councillor Watson wants to have a go at me, so carry on, Jeff. Don't forget to put your microphone on though. You've switched it off again.
Right, there we go. I was actually going to respond exactly with what Paul just said. I think it's important to understand that when we were open this year, we still had restrictions on the public entry into our centres. So although we were still heating the water, and we still had the reception desk, and we still had the people there, we were getting fewer and fewer visitors because of the restrictions. For example, the Ponteland climbing wall has never been opened since it started. That's probably a bad example actually, but climbing walls, soft play parks of something that we haven't been able to use very much at all this year. They don't actually demand sort of staff to look after them. They're still just part of what they do. So it's just not a fair comparison, unfortunately, because we've had so much restrictions on what we can do. And I'm convinced that Active took into account all the grants and all the cost savings that they possibly could to come up with this deficit that we presented with. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not that. I was just wondering, whether if you can look at these things in a slightly different way. Sometimes perhaps you can, as I say, if £500,000 of that is actually rent to the council, then you just write it off. But it isn't. It's fewer people going through the turnstiles in buildings which are more expensive to maintain. So there isn't any. The council's just going to have to find the money. But what we can't do is we can't do that indefinitely. And the council is not a bottomless pit. So we do need, as councillors, we do need to be thinking about how we are going to engineer a budget to get us out of the mess that we're in. It's just me trying to understand. And the only thing that nobody's answered yet, I'll get you in a minute, Councillor Carty, The only thing that you haven't talked about, and perhaps Nigel might be able to answer this more than anybody else, is that when we spend £22 million building something, there is no account of that taken in the running of the building. So the county council is paying off the £22 million with no income other than the income that it gets from council taxpayers rather than income from the building, because we're not asking Active Northumberland to contribute towards any of the capital cost.
No, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And I think you summed it up in your a few minutes ago when you said that's an investment in an asset. As any council across the country invests in an asset, we know that we did have an aging stock of facilities that they did need investment in. And you're right, in terms of that, the income generation as a council, as a client, what we need to be, you know, our ideal situation is that we have a zero subsidy to that leisure operator, so it actually operates at a zero cost to the council. Yeah, but I do know what you mean in terms, I wasn't close enough to the business case for the new builds, but I say a 22 million pound leisure centre, by the nature of those buildings, it's difficult to imagine a payback within the lifetime of that. But I can get some more details for you on that, Jeff, if you need them.
No, it's just I'm just trying to make the point.
No, I understand.
The people who are operating the service for us are doing a very good job in generating income to pay all their staff and not ask us for any money to do that. But we are paying off £100 million worth of loans on these things, and Active aren't contributing anything to that. I'm not saying they should. All I'm saying is that getting something to work and to have an operating profit is not the same as having, like, paying off as you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Because,
and if you didn't, and
you know,
conversely, if you
right,
didn't,
we're going to ask for £1 million a year in, you know, capital cost. Well, you would never, and I'm not suggesting for a moment we should. All I'm saying is that people need to realise that Active are doing a fantastic job, but they are being given buildings that are fit for purpose, and they're not actually being asked to contribute towards the construction of them.
no,
Anyway,
if you didn't, sorry, I was just going to say, if you didn't invest in the buildings as well, the chances, if you didn't have a high quality offer, the chances of making that facility, that facility break even would be even less. So it is a chicken and egg. You need to invest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm only commenting. I'm not.
No, Jeff.
I'm not complaining. Councillor Carty.
Well, I was going to say something similar, Jeff, funny enough, right? So I'm not going to go on. I just kind of echo what you're saying. I do think in the future it would be really good, in the future, mind, when things are safer, if Active could start again working more with the community centres and places like that they used to years ago. Some people don't want to go into the sports centres and that they don't feel comfortable in them, especially some of the elderly groups, and some of the women, you know, from the BAME communities and that don't do that, but they'll go into the community centre. And if Active could put sessions on in community centres like they used to do years ago, maybe that's a way forward as well of getting people engaged. It's just my thoughts as a community worker.
Well, it may come to that. So unless Joanne or Paul or Nigel want to sum up or say anything more, leave us with an enlightening thought, then I shall bring this to an end.
Excuse me, Chair. I think Councillor Dunn has had her hand up electronically. It's not up now, but she has had.
Go on then, and then Brian. So
Thank you.
sorry about that, missed you.
It's all right. The management fee. I mean, I know county have been reducing it year on year, and it's in the medium and long budget plan. Do you think this will continue after 2022 when it's due to finish? Will this be going down again, or is that not possible? And I suppose I'm asking Jeff there because he's the one that's been.
Councillor Watson, I take it.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
as we said before, it's the essential aim of the agreement that was raised at the beginning, as I understand it, because it wasn't in my time, was that Active would have an amount of funding which would reduce over a certain number of years, and the new buildings would facilitate a turnover from those buildings which would help to run the business. That contract is still existing, and I haven't been involved in any discussions of what will happen after the end of that contract as we stand at the moment. But I don't think, again, it is at all reasonable to think that under current circumstances we're just going to walk away from this contract. We can't. No. We have to maintain services to the public. And you know, the other thing I think we perhaps missed in this conversation as well, and please, any of the officers who know much more about this than I do, correct me if I'm wrong, but Active is a non-profit making organisation, and any profit that they make will come back to the council, which may offset some of the costs of the buildings that have been provided in the past. Now, I know that doesn't fully answer your question, Jeff, but it is, you know, if it was reverse, if they made a loss, then we'd have to continue to fund that. If they make a profit, it can only be to the good for us. So the answer is, Liz, in all honesty, I can't tell you what's going to happen beyond 2022. Okay.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for joining the meeting halfway through. That's why I've been very quiet, just listening to all the positive things being said about Active Northumberland. Active Northumberland is a very, very important tool for the county and for its residents. My question or concern is that when we get back to a new normal, because I don't ever think we'll get back to the normal, when will we be able to have this conversation? When will we review? I hope it's not going to be in a year's time that we look at this. It's maybe my idea that once we get back, we have a closer look at the organisation, a look at least on a 3 to 6 monthly cycle, so that not to analyse it or pull it apart, but have that reassurance that the organisation's moving in the right direction. So I don't want to wait on a yearly cycle to have this conversation again. So that's the only thing, but a lot of positive things coming around by it. And again, well done to you and your team, and an excellent report. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll try and knock it on the head now then, unless anyone else wants to interrupt me. Doesn't look like it. The very funny thing is that there are more Jeffs in the body of councillors than there is any other name, which is very odd, because I was always told that my name was special. Well, there you go. Anyway, I take it that we're all happy with Nigel. Go on, Nigel.
Sorry, Jeff. I was just going to say, in not response to Brian, but just in dialogue with Brian there, the quarterly KPIs are actually uploaded to the council's corporate performance website, and they're quite detailed as well, Brian. So you can start to see a direction of travel on those as well. But I certainly taken into account your point that we can bring certainly a detailed annual review every year, but we should also receive the annual forward plan every year as well, and I'd welcome that intervention by scrutiny on that.
Okay, right. And what I would say is there's some report due out at the end of June, so I suggest whoever is doing this particular committee asks to see it at the earliest possible moment, which I guess will be the end of July, because there won't be a meeting in August, Sean, will there?
Unlikely, but you never know.
Right. So can we say that there is some, you do produce something for the end of June?
Yeah, right? Chair. For the 30th of June each year, Active are required to deliver to the council an annual outcomes report.
Right.
That's the document that this committee could receive.
Would that need to be filtered in some way, or would it just come as is? So I'm saying if it's the 30th of June, would be July? Would a meeting in July be able to?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we'll sign it off as an officer. I'll be happy with that, and then bring it through.
Okay, so, you know, who knows who's going to be here, but can we say that this committee would like to see that report in July? Was that all right, Brian? Right. Well, thank you very much for your attendance. That was all very interesting. I hope you didn't find it too arduous. We do try and run this with a light touch because there's no point in getting annoyed with each other. It's, you know, it doesn't do my heart condition any good at all. So if the officers want to go now, I don't see any problem with that. And I can't see anything because my light's not on. So what's the next thing on the agenda, Sean?
It's the work programme and the mountain report, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
That's no problem. You all take care. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye now.
Is everybody happy to accept the recommendations within the report?
Yeah. Given the caveats that were put in.
I'm going as well, Jeff. Bye-bye.
Yeah, cheers, Jeff. About how, yeah, sorry, Nicola, where are you? Yeah, we're happy with the thing, bearing in mind the COVID situation, etc. Then we'll hope to see the outturn report at the July meeting. Is that all right? I think that's what we said, Sean, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can go straight on to the work programme now, Chair.
Yeah, can you just carry on? I'll go and put a light on somewhere because I can't see a thing.
Just give you a second.
There we are. There we are, that's better. Sorry about that.
I mean, obviously we're working on the assumption that the election's still going to go ahead in May. No announcement to the contrary. So that would leave us with 3 meetings left. The next meeting's on the 3rd of February. We've got 2 reports, the enforcement overview and the anti-social behaviour overview, both reports requested by the committee. In March, we've got the customer services feedback. We've got the seasonal grounds maintenance report, and we've got the section 106 agreements. I know that's different to what's in the papers, but you appreciate that the original agenda went out in December, so there's been a few changes since then. So as I say, the section 106 agreements, which Brian asked for as well. So we've got a reasonably full agenda for February and March. In April, it is likely, as I say, that we'll be in PERDA, so it is unlikely that we'll get any pre-scrutiny reports, but not saying we won't, but it's unlikely that we will. So for that meeting, it's a case of really taking the opportunity to reflect. Now, you will see that past the work programme, you've got your mountain report for that from the last 2 years, because essentially the last 2 years is rolled into one because we didn't have an AGM, so we were actually looking at 2 calendar years. So really it's a case of inviting members to reflect back on all of the issues that you've covered in that period and to satisfy yourselves that any promises are undertaken or concerns that you might have had when you considered those reports, whether or not there's any element of that you want officers to come back on, and perhaps the April meeting might be a chance for the committee to do that. So if there are any issues that this committee have dealt with over the past 2 years that you've let go through, but you've had concerns as you've done that, perhaps then would be the opportunity to get the officer back or the portfolio holder back and say, you know, we raised this with you last July. You said that this would happen. Has it? You know, but I will just leave that with the committee chair to identify any issues that you might want to.
Yeah, I've got plenty of time to get back to you anyway, haven't I, really? Excellent. Okay, any comment on any of that? Anybody? Everybody's shaking their heads in no to that. So after that, it's urgent business. I haven't been told of any.
No.
Oh, and Sean's saying no too. So thank you all for your attendance. I think it will probably stop the recording now. And those of you, well, in fact, there's only Brian, isn't there? I was going to say those of you who are on the same committee as me this